All right, so we'll try this again. All right, so right, so with chapter 4, right, we're dealing with consciousness, right, and what that actually means, right? So now we're moving into sleep, right? The one thing that we all lack, or most of us lack.
You don't need to at me.
So, well, I'm not only talking to y'all, I'm talking to myself. Okay, so I lack sleep and plenty of it, and so what? Who knows what two types of sleep there are?
I know there's REM.
There's deep sleep. Isn't that like a thing?
It is a thing.
But
It's a thing.
is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
So that's one of them?
Yeah. Well, there's actually just two types of sleep, right? There's two types of sleep. There's
REM sleep.
yes, there's REM sleep. That's one of them.
And I can't remember the other.
It's
Right?
non-REM sleep. There you go. So it's just real simple, all right? So there's REM sleep and there's non-REM sleep, okay? So there's two types, okay? The REM sleep, this is where physiologically active type of sleep when most of a person's dreaming takes place, okay? All right, non-REM, it's where it's light to deep sleep. It's the most restful kind of sleep, right? Then the REM sleep is voluntary muscles are limited, right? It's where we can't move, right? Non-REM sleep, a person can move around and you can kick some, right? Non-REM sleep, you can usually just like kick somebody, right? Like you move, you know, so, right, so, all right. All right, so most of the sleep research that we have dates back to the 60s. And so when you read through, if you read through the book, some of the terminology in there, you'll have the old terminology, new terminology. New terminology just says like N1, N2, N3, and then REM. Okay, but there's some old terminology in there too, and it's just like side by side. So take a look at that. But there's several stages to sleep. First stage is N1 or light sleep, right? This is theta wave. Theta wave sleep, and the alpha waves activity fades away and people enter into just a light sleep. All right, this is usually like where we experience like visual events, and we kind of have jerks, you know, like, so have you ever been like where you kind of slept and you've just kind of like, you know, you kind of you glitch, you know, you know what I mean, like just barely, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, so, well, I mean, we've all experienced, I mean, that's like the first level of sleep, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? So, the body jerks awake. This is also, have you ever had that experience where you felt like you've fallen in sleep and then you do that thing? All right, this is the first level of sleep, all right? So that's this level of sleep, this stage of sleep, okay? All right, then there is N2 or sleep spindles, all right? This is where the body goes into the next level, where the body temperature lowers, heart rate slows, breathing becomes shallow, and then sleep spindles start happening. This is a brief activity lasting a few seconds. Brief activity. And if you're awakened during this activity, during this time, you will be aware that you have been asleep. Okay? So when you get into this stage of sleeping, you will be aware that you have gone to sleep at some point. Okay? So in the first stage, you don't really know, right? When you hit that, you don't think you've really been asleep. You don't feel like you've been asleep. The second stage, you do. Okay? So then that brings us to the third stage, which is the delta waves, or N3, all right? This is the third stage of sleep. It's the deepest stage of sleep. It's really deep, deep sleep. And this is where large waves happen. If they hooked you up to a machine, you'd see real deep waves in your brain waves. And these are delta waves increase in this stage. The body is at its lowest function completely, all right? And the delta waves become the most dominant brain activity. People are hard to wake up during this stage.
I am a rock.
Okay? Yeah. So they are really, really hard to wake up. Okay? All right. This is the N3 stage, the delta waves stage. Okay? And then the last is REM, okay? R for REM, okay? This, when a person spends time in this actually is where they they go up to N3 and N2, all right? They go to near waking up levels, all right? So you go to N3, all right, and then you go back up to N2, all right? So you go back and forth in these stages when you sleep, okay? This is where you go to almost waking up levels. You have eyes are moving rapidly. Your heart starts beating faster. You have brain activity. Also in the REM stage, this is associated with what? Dreams, right? And so within this, right, this is where 90% of all dreams happen. Okay? It's also where something kind of scary happens, and it's called sleep paralysis. Okay? Has anybody experienced this?
Explain it.
Sleep paralysis?
Yeah, explain it.
It's where you're asleep and you can't move.
I don't know.
And
why.
you like know you're asleep.
I find it a cool
That's
concept. I find sleep
It's
paralysis.
like where half your brain's awake type thing and half your
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, like you know you're asleep
And then you see some terrifying shit.
and you can't move. Yeah.
I went through it.
Yeah. So it's sleep paralysis. Okay? Yeah. All right. But what is the purpose of REM sleep, right? So we get into this deep sleep. We have this activity within ourselves, right? Where we're almost awake, right? But what's the purpose within it? Well, so research is still kind of divided on it a little bit, but they think it has a couple of things, right? Sometimes when we have a real physical demanding day, non-REM sleep, we tend to have more non-REM sleep when we have a really physical demanding day. Okay? Non-REM sleep. Okay? And it tends to recover the body better. All right? Now, when we have an emotional, stressful day, we tend to have more REM sleep, where we go deep into more of the dream stage and stuff like that. And what researchers think is that we tend to deal with those stressful events, emotional events, and try to deal with those through dreams and stuff like that. That's what they believe. Does that make sense? So when we have physical demanding days, we tend to spend more time in non-REM sleep. When we have emotional or stressful days, we tend to spend more time in deep REM sleep.
What if you have both?
Okay? So I don't know. But I imagine that your body would deal with it in a very try to balanced way. So, or your head would explode. I don't know. But here's what we do know is sleep helps, right? Sleep helps our body recover. It helps our brain recover. Sleep also helps our memory, right? And we don't know how sleep helps memory in any particular stage. We just know this, is that it does help memory. So whenever we have events happening in our life, we want those memories to last. And so when we don't sleep, those memories don't become solidified into our brain. And so we need to have sleep so those memories can be solidified. And so they will be stuck. But that leads us to something else, is that with sleep, there's also disorders that come with sleep. And so there are several disorders. So can y'all think of some disorders, some sleep disorders? Any type of sleep disorders? Insomnia, okay. Any others? Just insomnia? Does anybody have insomnia? Think they have insomnia? Okay. How about sleepwalking? How about narcolepsy? Sleep apnea. You ever heard of any of these?
Sleepwalking.
Sleepwalking. How about nightmares? All right. So all these are sleep disorders. Okay. So right, we have nightmares. Right. Basically, all nightmares are just dreams. Okay, they're just dreams. All right. And have you ever noticed like kids have more nightmares than adults do? They tend to. Well, here's the reason why. Is because kids tend to spend more time in REM sleep than adults do. And so as we grow older, we spend less time in REM sleep. That's why. So it's just because we spend less time in REM sleep. That's why they tend to have more nightmares. Okay? But there's sleepwalking. So 20% of the population deals with sleepwalking. It's really common in childhood. It's partially due to hereditary conditions. But a lot of times it has nothing more to do than just sitting up in bed. Right? Like people just sit up in bed and then sit back down. But it could have something to do, it could be so extreme as to getting up, walking around, like going to the fridge, going getting something to eat, even going for a drive. Okay?
Excuse me?
Yes, get in your car, going for a drive, things like that. All right? There's this really great section in there that talks about sleepwalking and somebody murdering somebody in the book. Okay? So, and when you do your worksheet, you have to go and read that part. Okay? Go read that part. It's really neat.
Sweet.
Okay? Read about it. Okay? Because it's some cases about somebody who sleptwalked and murdered somebody. Okay? Not even joking, okay? So go read that. It's really neat. All right? But most people don't even remember them doing this stuff. They don't even remember it. Okay? They're totally asleep. They go and they do whatever and they wake up and yeah. So I think one of the examples it gives is a student had a brother who they found dead asleep behind the wheel of the car. And he didn't know how he got there, and apparently he couldn't find the keys to the car. And he was just sitting there behind the car. They found him the next morning. He was just sitting there. So he apparently was going to go for a drive. And so, anyway. All right, so...
I've had conversations with people while I was asleep, and they're like,
Yeah.
hey, you remember this conversation? I'm like, I was asleep.
Yeah.
Like, you were talking to me like normal? No, I wasn't.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing. People suffer from sleepwalking. So the next sleeping disorders is insomnia, okay? So this is not just not being able to go to sleep, but the inability to get to sleep, stay asleep, or get good sleep. So it's all three.
Oh, love it.
Okay? So it's all three of those things, right? The inability to get to sleep, stay asleep, or get good sleep. All right? So there are some causes to this. Some are psychological, some are physiological. Psychological causes is worry or anxiety. Physiological is like caffeine, indigestion, aches, pains, right? So some easy ways to like get rid of some of that would be like physical exercise, having, not having a lot of caffeine, things like that. It gives you some breakdowns of some things you can do, like when you feel tired, going to bed. Some things now is like staying away from blue light, turning your phone off an hour before you go to bed, not having any screen in front of you an hour before you go to bed, things like that. Things that we all suffer from because we have screens in front of us all the time. Just be aware of that. All right, the next one we're going to look at is sleep apnea. And this, I hope nobody y'all's age suffers from this, but usually parents and older people suffer from sleep apnea. And so this is basically when a person stops breathing. When they go to sleep, they stop breathing for about 10 seconds or more. So if your mom or dad or guardian or whoever is sleeping on the couch and you watch them and they just stop breathing and you're like,
They died.
and they do that thing, they probably have sleep apnea, right? And they don't get good sleep, all right? And 5 to 25% of adults suffer from this. It can cause heart problems. It can cause all sorts of issues and problems, and basically they can die. All right, I mean it's really bad. If you know somebody that has a CPAP machine that they wear, it's this mask they put on before they go to bed. Then she has sleep apnea. All right, she has sleep apnea.
So you're saying if they sleep without it, they might like die? Because
They could, yeah. The reason they wear that mask is so they can get oxygen to their body, so they don't. Yeah, that's why they have. Yeah, that's why they have it, because they have sleep apnea. Yeah. So here's the thing. Like when I was 300 pounds, I snored really badly. right? But when I drop down to 240, right, I stop snoring. I mean, I snore every now and then, but I stop snoring. I lost so much weight that it stopped. So, so a lot of times weight gain has problems to do with that. But a lot of times it may be, swollen glands or gland problems or things around the throat that things may need to be removed to actually help fix that.
Yeah, because I snored really bad before I had my phone.
Yeah, and people have that done, and then they can breathe and they'll be fine. All right. Yeah, and I do every now and then. So narcolepsy. This one's the fun one. I mean, it's not fun if you have it, but narcolepsy is this is the one where people just sleep. Like they'll be like talking to you straight up, and then they'll just be like and be asleep, right? Like, yeah, like I mean, I hate to say it that way. All right, it's not funny if you have it, but like like you're eating your soup with the person, and then their face goes right down into the soup. I mean, that's I don't even know what movie it's from, but there's this movie where this person, they're like, and she has narcolepsy, and her face goes right down into the soup. And anyway,
So she just fell asleep or she died?
yeah, no, she fell asleep. She had narcolepsy, and so but anyway, so 1 in every 2,000 people have narcolepsy or some form of it. All right, this means they go from straight awake to REM deep sleep. Straight awake to REM sleep like that in a second.
So they just pass out for no reason.
Yeah, like we'll be straight talking like this, and they'll just go straight to sleep, down, just like that.
I want to experience.
Yeah, do you? Oh, wow. Oh, that's great. So it's without warning during waking hours. Like when you're supposed to be awake, just during waking hours, just boom, go to sleep. All right. So narcolepsy is, I don't even know how they combat it. Like I don't know. It's crazy. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know how I'd function with that. I'm sure there's some drugs or something they give them. Give them what? I was thinking something else, but anyway. All right. So there's 2 types of sleep. What are the 2 types of sleep? Non-REM. All right. There's how many stages of sleep? Do you remember? 4. Okay. All right. Who can name some sleep disorders for me? Sleep apnea. Sleepwalking. Narcolepsy. Nightmares. Who said snoring? Snoring? No. All right, that's pretty close. All right, I'm gonna hand these sheets out to you. All right, and then we will we'll probably talk about dreams tomorrow because we got to move on. So, all right, good job. Thank you for listening.